So the Democratic debate concluded a couple hours ago, and it went a little interestingly. So obviously it was going to heavily focus on the COVID stuff that's going on due to all that dominating the news. There's not really much else news, honestly. It's kind of diluted the whole news cycle, which sucks. It's pretty boring because that's all you have now. But what's going on here is the debate started out very weak for Bernie Sanders. Right, Bernie came off very weak. He's even stumbling a little bit, and his responses were just really bad. And they were, most importantly, the key word is weak. All right, that's what he was in the beginning. But then there was a pivotal point. There was a turning point that started to hit up soon after that, and that's when he took over. Bernie Sanders took over at that point. Now, he took over starting out talking about Joe Biden's record on the whole Bull Simpson stuff and Social Security. All right, that's where it came out. Because all you guys have seen the clips of Joe Biden, basically. He's literally on the floor talking about freezing spending for Social Security because of, at the time, they were doing like this budget deficit cutting stuff. And a byproduct of that was going to be cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting Medicaid, all of that stuff. He's on the floor multiple times, the Senate floor, advocating for that stuff. And so he really trapped Biden there. He was specific about which situations he was talking about. And then even when Biden denied, he was being very unconvincing in his denial because he himself knew that he was wrong. And so his denial was so obviously wrong that you could sense it from his body language and the way that he delivered it. And, you know, Bernie says, go to the YouTube. Hopefully people went to the YouTube. Hopefully they checked it out on the YouTube and they saw the videos of Joe Biden basically wanting to cut Social Security. Then that started to snowball. He also led that into the bankruptcy bill that he had passed. He had wrote in conjunction with and in cooperation with the credit card companies. And he lied once again, saying that he didn't write the bill. He did help write the bill. It's absolutely true. And then Bernie was like calling out Biden's circular logic on like, oh yeah, we need to reform this now. It's like, wait, hold on. So you're talking about reforming a bill that you wrote. And so it's like, you did something messed up and then you're reforming it. Well, it's like, how about we don't vote for you, the person who caused the problem in the first place? That's probably a good idea, right? And then it went on to reproductive rights and the Hyde Amendment. So, and he kind of put him down on that. And he was claiming that like NARAL was giving him like a really good rating, which is not true. Some months ago, NARAL like blasted him for supporting the Hyde Amendment. I just saw a tweet on it, so that's absolutely not true. And then the super PACs thing was another interesting one where Bernie called him out, because it's true that Biden does have these super PACs that are putting these ads out, these pamphlets in Spanish that they're sending out to Latin American communities, and they're doing some serious attacks on Bernie Sanders. And he was right about that. And then Joe Biden, he's like, you have 9 super PACs? No, absolutely not. Bernie doesn't have any super PACs, right? But 9? That's insane. And so he's like, could you name them? He's like, come on, man. Like, can you name the super PACs? Come on, man. Like, what kind of response is that? Like, list them off if they're real. No, it's probably a pretty good idea to list them off. And so he just totally went ham on him for those portions. And then once his performance started cooling down was when the red baiting stuff came up. So we know all about the Fidel Castro stuff. Now I think I think 30 years from now, I think nobody in the U.S. is going to care about Castro anymore, because all of the boomers who were owners of slave plantations who now are in Florida, they'll be dead by natural causes, and so nobody will care about that anymore. Already, if you're under the age of like 50, nobody cares about Fidel Castro. But Fidel Castro is one of the most overblown evils I've ever heard in my entire life. The guy's kill count is at like 4,000, and Fulgencio Batista, right, the dictator that reigned before him, that was United States backed, who led for way less than Fidel Castro. I encourage you, just Google Fulgencio Batista. Just Google the guy, all right? Just Google him. His was at like 20K, and you'll just see report after report about how like nasty and vicious of a dictator he was. And then nobody talks about how the U.S. backed Latin American death squads that killed and raped innocent women and children. Look up the El Mozote massacre, for example. That was about 1,000 innocent women and children who were gathered up, raped, and murdered. All right, that was done by the El Salvadoran army, which they recently apologized for. And That army was backed by the United States and the Contras, literal death squads, all right, just straight up murdering innocent people, all right, back to take down the Sandinistas. And so the idea that you look back at the Sandinistas and go, they're the bad guys, you have an incredibly revisionist look at history and a very lacking historical view. And so when you paint like Fidel as this, people want to act like Fidel is like Stalin or Hitler. Like, what? The guy taught black Cubans how to read because they were slaves who were illiterate, all right, and they were kept in the slave system. And then he was like, fuck, he told the slave plantation, I was like, fuck off, motherfuckers, I'm going to teach these black Cubans how to read. And the guy supported Nelson Mandela and South African apartheid, helped in Angola and all this stuff. He genuinely loved black people at a time where black people were suffering from like the cruelest, harshest racism. All right, seriously. He passed anti-discrimination, anti-racist laws, yada yada yada. List goes on and on, right? But people want to act like he's Hitler. All right, seriously, that's what they want to act like. Really, dude? Really? You're talking about the dictator you fuckers backed killed 5 times as many people as he did, and that guy was barely in power. Imagine if he was left in for longer than that. It would have been like 20, 30 times more people. All right? And then also, the Latin American death squads that you're backing killed easily tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands. I'm pretty sure if you tally them all up. So people don't like to look at history with any facts whatsoever. It's really embarrassing. But when it comes to the election, I don't really know if this is even an issue that you can educate people on, or whether it's worth educating people on. Because quite frankly, maybe he should have just dodged the issue altogether. Maybe he should have just retracted his comments. When Barack Obama made his comments, he had already run for election twice. Maybe he already knew. Maybe he knew what was up with Floridians and how dumb they were. Maybe he already knew. Is it just a coincidence? He said that in 2016 and not in 12 or something like that. 13, maybe 10. Maybe there's a reason for that. So I really don't know. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. But once that red baiting hit, Bernie didn't have a good response to it. His response should have been adding context to the situation, but then also he should have hit him on like, oh, you love Saudi Arabia. You love all these, despots and dictators. That should have been his response. And Mehdi Hassan had pointed that out. But that should have been his response, and he could have responded better than the way he did. I didn't like his response. Definitely was not good. But, so it seemed like in the beginning he came off weak. In the middle, he really took it over. And then it kind of fizzled out towards the end. So, which one do I think held the most weight? I do think the middle held the most weight. I don't know if the ratings are going to be up for this debate because there's nothing else on TV now except for like reruns of stuff. There's no live events going on. I don't know. But we will see. I'm not really sure. Is this, conclusion-wise, is this enough to push Bernie Sanders over the hill? I don't know. And also, I think that Republicans are voting in droves for Joe Biden, so I don't even really know if there's anything Bernie can do. I don't really know. But we'll have to see, man. I mean, Tuesday's coming up. There's like 400 or 500 delegates at stake. So we'll find out then. But that's a summary of the debate.